Hey, what's up guys? My name is Moda and welcome back to the Mining Stacker YouTube channel. Today's video going to give an update on prices and profitability for April, right? So we're going to go over profits, what things are looking like compared to the last month. And we do have some big news on that Kaspa ASIC. We do have prices for it. So we'll go over that. And we'll talk about the big news for me this month is the price movement on that L7 and the E9 and E9 Pro, right? So we're going to talk about what prices are looking like and probably the reason for them, right? So prices are looking good. If you're interested, it looks like they may go lower. Just keep that in mind. So if that sounds good, guys, stay tuned, all right? So let's get to it. So overall, the biggest jump has been the L7, right? Profitability wise, mainly because of that pump in Doge, right? Twitter had that thing where they replaced the Twitter logo with the Doge logo, and that's what's causing the price increase, right? So that's the number one performer right now. Everything else has just gone slightly down, right? HS3 is about where it's at, but just keep in mind they will have that halving here in a few weeks, so that's going to drastically change. The K7 has gone down as well. It's now under 10 bucks and it's been hovering in this range, and it's just because of the price action with CKB, right? Realistically, this is probably closer to where it should be. Time will tell. We'll see if it pumps. The KA3 is now under 9 bucks, and that's just because of the price action, right? That guy's just been sideways, and like we talked about last month, is that it was going to continue to go down if that price stayed the same, just because of that difficulty is going to continue to increase, and that's exactly what happened, right? Price is pretty much flat, and it's still been flat. I think it's like at 98 cents, just like it was last month. The difference being is the difficulty is just continuing to go up, although now it looks like it's leveling out finally, but there's still more to come. There's still pre-orders for April and all the way into May, so keep that in mind. So those have been the big changes. Now let's talk about some news. I know there's been a lot of hype with the Kaspa here. So Nhash did list that FPGA, so it's not an ASIC, but they did list that FPGA now. So they are at $23.99 is what they decided to list at. For those of you who were subscribed, you saw that community post as soon as I saw it, put it out there. But they do have at 2,400 bucks. Free shipping, no PSU though. So keep that in mind, no power supply from there. Coastal Crypto, they did update their price now. It was at 2,600. They did look like try to match Nhashes. So they're at 2,400. I think it's up in the air whether or not it comes with a PSU or not. But factor that in also. So far, no other like big store vendors have listed them, but going through like different Telegram groups and such, they are starting to talk about it. They are listing them. They're somewhere in this price range. Keep in mind that if you're buying through a store, it's going to be higher than those prices you see on like Telegram and such. Me personally, I only purchase through these stores, right? I only purchase through somebody who I trust, somebody who I know, which for the most part is going to be, I personally use BT miners. I just use Coastal Crypto to buy one of these when they had it at that $1,900 price point. But that's me personally. I know some of you guys find awesome deals on like Discord, Telegram, WhatsApp groups. My trust level is just not there yet, so I prefer to pay the higher price just for that peace of mind, right? Everybody does their own thing. Just something to keep in mind, right? So again, looks like that is the current price level, about 2,400 from these vendors, from these bigger stores, right? Telegram groups, looks like it's going to be in the 2,000, possibly under range, right? But a lot of it's going to be dictated by Kaspa's price, right? As we know, these things are 100% dictated by that price. It was at 4 cents. Right now it's down at 3 cents. Those profitability numbers are going down. But just keep in mind, if you're interested in one of these, focus on that yield, right? Kaspa did just have a big pump. Wouldn't be the most shocking thing in the world if it went back down to 2 cents or 1.5 cents. But just keep in mind, if that's something you're interested in long term, focus on that yield. Don't look at that USD number because it is going to fluctuate, right? Already just in the past few days, we'll look at the next miner here, and that one, the profitability number changed drastically, right? But again, focus on that yield. If it's a coin that you're into, look long term and look at that yield, right? Because also another thing to factor in is that as that value goes down of Kaspa, guess what? Miners are going to be jumping off and going to Nexa, whatever, Dynex, all these other coins. So keep that in mind also, right? So that because that also is going to affect the yield. So now we have that price point for there, at least currently. We'll see what happens. We'll see how it goes. So the next big deal is this guy, right? So for those of you who caught that FPGA video I did the other day, we talked about this one. We do have more news now. So they did update the stats even on F2 pool, and we'll talk about why here in a second, because those stats have been confirmed now, have been able to confirm its existence. It is real. RPM just did a video this morning, but I do have a little bit more info regarding that. So it's now listed at 30 gigahash, which is actually, it's a slightly bit higher. We'll talk about that here in a second. And they did increase the power consumption because that is higher. They have it listed at 1700 watts now, right? So it's not the most efficient thing in the world, but the biggest thing here is just density, right? So now, because of the difficulty increase and the price reduction of Kaspa, right, it's now about 20 bucks a day, right? Which is a steep drop from just a few days ago when it was at 30 bucks a day when I had done that video, right? So keep that in mind. So the official price points. So I want to first give a shout out to, if you guys are on Discord, I'm sure you've probably seen his name, T-Swift. On YouTube, he does comment quite a bit. If you see him on there, it's Carafirmo1. But shout out to him. If you see him commenting or doing anything, pay attention, right? Knowledgeable dude. And he's the one who actually confirmed the K10 for me before anybody, right? So shout out to him. And also for providing a video, even like 100% confirming it. He got it from his sources. So here it is, right? Here's the first actual video I've seen of it. So got it from him. If we look on here, it is a TikTok user by the name of ASIC Prince. So you can see here, and it's just confirming the stats essentially, right? So we look at it. There's the K10, typical little ASIC build, but it is confirming some of the stats, right? So this is a little bit higher, right? Keep in mind there is going to be that 10% tolerance. It's hard to say if this is like a higher setting because the hash rate is also going to be higher, as we'll see here in a second, but it is at almost 1900 watts here. And then the official stats, it looks like this is what's going to be 30 gigahash at 1700 watts, which is why F2 Pool did update their stats now. So as you see it listed, this is probably going to be the official rating. The manufacturer is that Superscaler brand, and it is the K10, right? We saw the K10 sticker, but there's the official branding there. We can confirm Superscaler K10. Although don't be surprised if you see this thing rebranded as having different names, right? Just keep in mind those stats, right? Because depending on who gets their hands on it, it could be rebranded. Just keep that in mind, right? So now they're going to show a quick little pic of the actual hash rate on a pool. Again, it is kind of crappy quality video. It is going to be a little bit blurry. So you can see here, it's over, right? So it's anywhere from 33 to 36 gigahash. This appears to be most likely, I'm guessing, the 24-hour average, and it's at 33 gigahash, right? So it looks like, again, about 10% over, which makes sense because give or take, you're going to have that tolerance depending on silicon lottery, etc., etc. But this is confirming its existence. It is going to be out there, so get ready for it, right? So price points. Talking to Coastal Crypto, looks like it's going to be at 10.9, although digging around on Telegram and then digging around from T-Swift, it's looking like it's going to be, again, you're going to have better prices going through like these WhatsApp vendors, things of that sort, but it is super, super high risk. I like to use them as price references, right? So a lot of them, so like his source has it at about 9,000, so 8,500 to 9,000. So it's going to be in that ballpark, but just keep in mind, I personally wouldn't buy through there. It is high risk, but for those of you, I know a lot of you guys have your sources, you have your guy, and you've successfully ordered plenty, so good job on you for finding that. But me personally, my trust level ain't there yet, especially for that amount of money. But so just keep in mind, that's going to be the range anywhere from like 8,500 to 11,000, right? And a lot of it's going to be dictated on that Kaspa price. So right now, because of that 4-cent pump, even at 3 cents, the greed level is going to be high, so that price is going to be high. Does it make sense at that price point? For me, no. Reason being is that, number one, it's an ASIC, right? So you're going to be stuck with that unit. To me, it would make more sense to just jump on 2 of those Osprey E300s, That's going to give you roughly about the same density factor, right? It's going to be about that 30 gigahash level, but at a fraction of the actual energy consumption. It's going to be closer to under 1,000 watts, somewhere between 900 to 1,000, just depending on how you have it clocked. But it's going to be more efficient. It's going to be slightly more, right? Each one of those is like 5,200. Think like 5,100 after the coupon code, so give or take about 10.2. But number one, more efficient. Number two, it's a FPGA, so you're going to be able to switch as needed, right? So you are going to have that flexibility of being able to do that, right? So as RxD comes out, as these bit streams for like RxD or Ergo or Nexa, any of those come out, you'll be able to hop on there. So it does give you more flexibility. The advantage with an ASIC in theory would be that it's going to be even more efficient than the FPGA. But in this case, it's not, right? This is one of the first ones coming out. I'm sure it's on older chips. I would personally wait on it. I wouldn't jump on this yet, but this is just the first stage of these ASICs. So expect to see like bigger manufacturers, not necessarily like Bitmain or anything like that, but expect to see like Gold Shell, a few of these others. It'd be very, very smart of them for them to jump on it. And I'm sure if they haven't already, I'm sure they're looking into it. And if anything, I'm sure they're already being produced, right? So get ready for that flood, especially sometime this summer, right? Where there's that big mining conference in July, I believe, that mining disrupt. So expect to see more news there, right? I would definitely expect to see, if we don't see any units released, I would expect to see some announced, something, right? But for me personally, this ASIC is not efficient enough because, again, you want to see that efficiency gain from the FPGA. And in this case, it is actually less efficient, most likely because, again, it is going to be older chips, right? And that's the reason for that. So, again, for me, way too much. Just like I said in the other video, but expect that price point to be between 8,500 to 11,000. But again, me personally, I would go with that E300 if anything, right? So just wanted to give you the update on that. And again, shout out to T-Swift on Discord. So now let's continue on. The other big bit of news is on the front of the L7, right? So some kind of curious things going on with it. I know a lot of people have been talking about it, that, oh, there's going to be a L9, and I think so also, right? My personal prediction, WDMS from bitmain in the fall. Most likely get announced. I don't know if it'll get released by then, but so bitmain's been giving us a lot of clues actually, and this is the reason why a lot of us are thinking. I know a lot of people are saying it, but I'm going to give you the reasons why a lot of us are saying that, and a lot of us are thinking that. So again, this is speculation. This isn't guaranteed. They may end up dropping nothing, right? We don't know. But if you're in the ballpark, just keep these things in mind, right? So the number one big thing is that out of nowhere, this past fall, Bitmain started promoting it hard, right? They started doing random restocks on their website, which is kind of unusual. They were posting a lot about it. They did a talk with the Litecoin devs not too long ago, in the past few months. So that was kind of giving us hints. And then they gave us even more hints when they released that low power mode, which to me has nothing to do with benefiting the miners. To me, it's a marketing gimmick. And I think the reason they even did it with like the S19Js was because of that, right? That was during that big dip. Sales, I'm sure, weren't too hot. And I'm sure that did increase sales, as that does make things way more appealing, right? So to me, that's more of a marketing gimmick, because realistically, they have the technology and everything to be able to do it for any of their miners. To me, they're just releasing it as a marketing gimmick, right? The other big thing is just how long it's been out, right? It's currently at it just about hit that 1.5 year mark. This November, this fall will be 2 years, right? So as we saw with that Dash miner, that one only lasted about 1.5 years between the D7 and the D9. So give or take, that's another big reason. I think the other huge reason is because all of this local tech stuff. So I know a lot of you guys don't believe it's happening. I'm on the fence as well. I did do that video back when it was announced, kind of digging deep. If you guys are interested, check that one out. I gave some legitimacy to local tech. I know. Okay, I'm not even going to talk about it much more than that. But they are supposed to release that chip here. Not necessarily release. They're supposed to debut an actual chip here pretty soon. I know they did say they are going to be at Mining Disrupt, so that's sometime in July. So July 25th to 27th. So if it doesn't get announced before then, expect it to be here. They have confirmed that they are going to be there. So expect to see the debut here, if anything. So in the next few months, we'll find out if it's legit or not. But even if it's not, just all this news coming out, all the possibility of it, you know it has Bitmain's attention. Okay, so even just the possibility of it is another reason that a lot of us are convinced that they're going to release it, right? Whether or not it's going to be a huge efficiency gain over the L7 is up in the air, right? Especially if there's a 7 nanometer chip in the L7. It may not be a huge jump in efficiency, right? As we saw with like the S19, the regular J Pros, and the XP, it's only like a 20-25% efficiency gain, right? Will we see the same type of gain there if they switch to a 5 nanometer node? Possibly, right? Which still puts the Locotech thing way ahead. Where they can get them at with, though, is the price, right? And this is kind of what it seems like they're doing with the ETC miners, right? As we've seen, that Jazz miner, that new one coming out, the X16Q, way more efficient than even the new E9 Pro. The difference being the price. And it seems like that's going to be their like attack vector, that they weren't able to be as efficient, but where they're probably going to beat them out in is the price. And we'll talk about what they're doing here and why I think they're deliberately doing what they're doing on purpose. And I think we're going to see a similar situation with that L7 and L9, right? I think if the L9 does come out and it's not the most amazing specs, I think what will make it stand out most likely will be the price. And I think that's how they're going to get them. Because again, this Hashblade thing, extremely efficient, but it's going to be $2,000 a pop, right? So that's one thing. Even if the L9 isn't as efficient, they will probably get them on price, right? So just stuff to keep in mind. It's kind of tinfoil hat stuff. We don't know. Just throwing stuff out there. Just keep in mind of that life cycle, all right? So something to think about. Another big development that did happen with the L7 is Hive. Hive released their Hive OS for it. So now you can underclock and overclock, right? Which is super appealing, especially for you guys who have the lower end unit. You can now overclock. I've heard different things, haven't been able to confirm it myself, so can't say yay or nay. But it seems like they're underclocking well, but not necessarily overclocking well, right? So it seems like a lot of them are able to underclock and hit these numbers, but it seems like some of the lower end ones may have trouble when you overclock them to an extent, right? Because my thought process would be, well, go ahead and get the lower end one and just clock it to the one of the higher end one. So there's been different reports, haven't been able to confirm it either way. For any of you guys who do have one of those lower L7s, like the 8800s or lower, and you've tried this out, comment. Please comment, let us know, because that would be very, very useful info. Because if you're able to just clock it to that point, then might as well get the cheapest one possible, right? And that's what we're going to go over here in a second, is that this is the other interesting part, which again, yet another piece to the puzzle, is the fact that these prices are going down more. So this is a price sheet. Again, this is not a vendor I would use, but I do like going through these like Telegram and WhatsApp price sheets because they typically know where the market's heading, right? So typically as their prices go lower, we see them from the big box stores a couple weeks later, right? So they do actually have the 8300 $5,400, which is extremely unusual because of the fact that Doge is pumping a little bit, right? So typically prices increase, but it's been staying flat, right? And then one other tidbit of news is that Bitmain just had that auction for the 8800. The big piece of news there, though, was in that tweet they listed on here. This is not going to be the last batch of L7s, okay? But this is the last batch of the L7s, the 8800s that they're going to make of. So is it because it's coming towards end of life, or are they going to focus on the 9050s, or even these lower end ones? I did actually just learn that there's now a smaller lower end one. So is this what they're doing? Maybe they're not going to release the L9, but maybe they're going to release lower end ones that are more efficient and way cheaper. It's also a possibility. Because even on a big box store, right, the prices have gone down. So they have all the way down to a 8050 model now. And this one's at under 6K. So pretty nuts. Haven't been able to confirm if it's less chips on the board or if it's just underclocked, because some of them that's the case, right? Well, like with the K7, have been able to confirm the difference between the 58 terahash and the 63.5 isn't the amount of chips, it's just running at a different clock, right? They actually have the same amount of chips, same amount of board, it's just they're running at a different clock. So is it the same case here? Is it B grade chips? We don't know. I haven't been able to confirm, but these prices have been going down, right? So this is from a big box source. This is from BT miners, which again are typically quite a bit higher than like these Telegram vendors, but even they have theirs cheaper. They have the 88 at 71.9. Let's see what they had theirs at. The 88 at 5,800, so under 6K. Okay, so the trend so far is that it may continue to go down. Again, giving us more evidence of a potential replacement. Them potentially trying to just clear inventory and make room for a E9 or L9, I should say. Right? So again, purely speculative, but giving all these clues as to why. Not just me, I'm sure you're hearing it all over, and a lot of people just based on the timeline. Even just based on the timeline alone, it's going to be 2 years this fall, so just keep that in mind. But now let's look at the other one. So this is what I was kind of alluding to. So we know that this guy's coming out. I think it got delayed to June now, right? I think the initial timeline was April, May. I think it got pushed back to June. And super, super efficient, right? 1,845 mega hash at, forget the wattage, but it's super low. Let's take a look. X16, 630 watts, right? So super, super efficient. The drawback though is the price, right? It's at, they have it listed here at 3,200, so it's anywhere from 32 to 3,700, right? So the E9 Pro just came out not too long ago. It's a bigger beast, 3,068 mega hash, so 3.68 gigahash at 2,200 watts, so not as efficient. But profitability wise, it is more just because it is a bigger beast, right? And the biggest appeal is that it's what, twice, right? You would need 2 of those to create the same amount of hash. It's less efficient though, but it is cheaper. It's currently at the same price, a little bit cheaper actually. And it looks like it's going down, right? So some interesting things have been happening. Number one, I don't know if any of you guys have noticed, but there's been a random supply of E9s. So not the E9 Pros, but even E9s that have been coming out. So even like the big box stores, a lot of them updated their price because they did get some new ones in, right? So even like BT miners, they got a shipment in $19.99, right? For that guy, they did lower the price of the E9 Pro to $29.99. And there's now different variants. So I think the reason for this is specifically because of this Jazz miner. So again, they couldn't beat him in the efficiency. So what they're going to do is release cheaper variants, and that's how they're going to get at him. So if we go back to this reference thing here, let's see where the E9's at. So look at how many variants that they are going to have now. So they're going to have a 3380, 3480, 3580, 3680, 3780. Okay. So look at the prices for April. So these are ones that are pre-orders, right? So they have the 3780, which is a bigger version, all the way down to 3380. But the 3380 coming in at $2,000, right? So I think this is their plan of attack to combat them. Okay, and then look at these stock numbers for this April release, which just happens to be a couple of months before that Jazz miner release. So if any of you guys are in the market, expect to see price drops, right? Probably not crazy like BT Miners has that at 2,900, but expect to see possibly not even price drops. The higher end ones will probably remain at that price, because even with this future price, the higher end one is at 2,600. And keep in mind that these big box stores are going to be about 20% higher. So it is give or take in line with that. But the ones that will be cheaper will be these lower end ones, right? So they have the 3380 at 1980. So expect to see these listed probably in the $2,500 range, right? And again, it's specifically, my prediction is just to combat that Jazz miner. Okay, so these are going to be shipping here pretty soon. And look at the quantities, right? Each one, it's 500 plus. Okay, so they're going to be flooding the market with these. And again, my prediction is that it's specifically because of that Jazz miner, right? So keep that in mind if you are in the market for one, okay? So as we can see here, because this is one that I have had my eye on, and I was debating on swapping out because I do have a HS3 coming. If I would have known about this guy, I would have purchased this guy instead. But fortunately, it was announced after. But just something to keep in mind. The other big price difference has been with the S19 with the BTC miners, right? So the XP did that video regarding the Bitcoin miners a little while ago, and we did see this price drop, and now I'm seeing it from other vendors as well, right? Even referencing again that same price sheet, they do have the XPs down to, so this is for the 141 model, down to 4,000. Reason being is because number one, the S19J Pro Plus, they're gonna be flooding the market. So they've been again delayed and delayed. I know you guys who pre-ordered, they were supposed to come out February, then March, but now it looks like finally April they're gonna be shipping. And they made a boatload. Look at the stock numbers. 10,000 plus. And this is for this model, right? They, as we all know, they haven't officially announced it. They did that little contest, but they haven't officially like debuted or gave us the shipping timeline for that. The S19J Pro Plus Plus, which is like an in-between model between this guy and the XP. So I think the biggest factor, like I mentioned in the other video with the XP, is just all the crap going on with some of them not being the most reliable, and then number two, this other release dropping, right? So those two factors are most likely the reason that they are dropping and probably going to continue to drop, right? So look at these stock numbers, and that's not even including the fact that that Pro Plus Plus is going to drop, right? So factor those things in, which is kind of interesting because typically this thing would be shooting through the roof because of the BTC price, right? We've been hovering even since the video I did last month. Last month we were at like 22,000. We're at 28,000. So these guys should have increased, but because of that, all the stuff going on, all these releases coming, the prices are actually going down. And we'll see how this summer goes, right? But again, keep in mind, guys, these are predictions. Anything can happen. BTC can go to 40K and by next month, and everything went up, right? But on the current trajectory, what things are looking like for certain models, right? Not all models, but specifically the ones we talked about, it does look like they may go down quite a bit more. Another kind of tidbit with the BTC miners is that even the What's miners are going down a bit, right? They haven't dropped a whole lot, so I didn't even reference them, but the difference being is that they are becoming more available, right? The M50s were kind of scarce. A lot of vendors actually do have the M50s now, and the M50S was even more scarce. And the same thing, a lot of them are starting to carry those, right? So we can see here, even the M50, they have it listed under 2,000, right? Which is very, very interesting. So it's kind of weird, right? Typically, BTC goes up, everything else goes up. Is it because there's a big flood of the market? They're overproducing these units? We don't know. We don't even know if that trend's going to continue, right? Could be just a temporary thing. Time will tell. But if you're interested in any of those units, keep your eye on them. I know I will. And especially on that E9. That's the one that's kind of like, but debating. Once I do get this HS3, I might end up just selling it and picking up a E9 Pro, right? Just because that one, we'll see. We'll see. I'm debating on it. We'll see how that goes. But just wanted to keep you guys updated, guys, because I know a lot of you guys are still in the market, still looking. And again, even if you're not, you want to kind of look at these trends just to kind of see where the overall market's going, right? It's important to do. Please comment, guys, if any of you guys are in the market, if you guys are looking. Any of you guys who have an E9 Pro, please comment. Let me know how you're liking it. Right? I've been hearing a lot of good stuff. A lot of people are actually saying it's overperforming, which is good to hear, especially if the prices do go down a bit and make it even more appealing, right? All right, guys, please comment, like, and subscribe. Thank you for watching, guys, and I am out.